Welcome everyone to the Jefferson College, where we're having our legislative forum, which is sponsored by the Jefferson County Growth and Development. This is an excellent opportunity where we get to hear from our state representatives that will be discussing the first session of the 94th session of the General Assembly. There we go. Thank you very much. So with this, we're going to go ahead. We're going to start off. Sam Como is going to have 5 minutes, and he will have a little red flag that's going to pop up, Sam, telling you that you're through, followed by Jeff Warda. I believe everyone is a Democrat, right? So this should go really smooth, I'm sure. As I recall, we have a Republican governor, so I know I'm looking forward to hearing how this all went. Sam?
Thank you, and good morning. As a freshman, this last session, it was definitely a very interesting time, a big learning experience. But the one thing that we do have in Jefferson County that helped me out is we do have great legislators, veterans. They all bring a little bit of different experiences to the table, and with that helped me a lot to get over a lot of the learning curves. And a lot of the experience they brought helped out with me. A lot of issues that we went through this year, a lot of important issues, ranging from economics to development to veteran issues, being on the Veterans Committee, serving with Ron Casey. A lot of interesting. I thought I knew a little bit about veterans issues, but once you sit on that committee and you have the generals come in and talk to you and different people testify, you find that you don't know half the issues you need to know on a daily basis. But you try to get through them the best you can. We have a lot of soldiers, as was brought up, coming home, and I think we need to continue to look at that. Veterans' homes, of course, have beds that we can't fill because of the staffing issue. We have some of the greatest facilities, I think, in the United States right here in Missouri, but because of staffing issues, we can't make sure they get filled. So I think that's something we need to continue to work on in the future for the men and women that are overseas, supporting us. So we need to continue to support them. But other things that's in the issues is my train of thought. A lot of issues happened. I think one thing I know that as a freshman I did learn was constituent work. Was able to do a lot of stuff. As a freshman, I wasn't able to go in there and change the world, of course, with the way things are right now. So constituent work was something I did, and it was really important to me. I think we worked on some great issues, helped people with jobs, insurance issues, people that, one lady with the cancer issue, couldn't get insurance, insurance companies playing around. As this legislator, you can go in there and try to resolve some of these issues. I think that was part of the best thing that I was able to do this session, was constituent help and help my people in my district. And that's something I want to continue to do into the future. Legislation, I think we need to continue to work. I know I've talked to Chuck Banks and Sam Rawls and Ed Kemp about what we need in Jefferson County to kind of get a game plan on some economic issues, economic development issues. It's something that is very strong to me. I want to continue to work with that and hopefully see what we can get out of Jefferson City. I see so much money being spent around the state that's going to other counties when it should be coming here to our county. We have over 200,000 people in it. We have just as much right to that money as anybody else. So that's something I'm going to continue to work strong on. I know I have the support of the rest of the reps on those issues. I talk to them all the time, and they're very supportive, and they'll help me. So with that, I appreciate that. Appreciate the time, and any questions? Questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So next up is Jeff Warda from the 102nd District.
That's canned applause from an old episode of I Love Lucy. thank you for having us here today. I want to thank the JCGDA for having us, and I want to say hello to all the viewers and listeners from JCTV and KJFF that are joining us for this forum. As Chris said, I'm Jeff Rorta, State Representative from the 102nd District, and I represent parts of Barnhart, Arnold, Imperial, House Springs, and Peevely. I want to first follow up with what Sam said and talk about what a great delegation we have in the House of Representatives. We've got 7 state reps. They all happen to be Democrats, but that's not why they're great. They're great because we work together so well. Through some real difficult negotiations, we were able to get all 5 of us that are wholly in Jefferson County, our district's wholly in Jefferson County, in the same office suite, which is no small task. And then we've got Belinda and Joe right across the hall from us. So we regularly get together. We can't really avoid each other. So we've got to talk, and we enjoy talking, and we enjoy working together on issues that affect Jefferson County. And we regularly visit with Senator Engler and Senator McKenna. We're on the other side of the building all the time, speaking to them. Their senators are too good to come over to us. So we frequently speak to them about issues that we think are important to Jefferson County, and they're both very, very open to our ideas. I guess, I'm an optimist, so I hate to say this, but I have to characterize this legislative session as a session of mislaid priorities. We have a governor that should have gotten a message from the voters last election as Democrats made gains in both the Senate and the House of Representatives, significant gains, the largest gain for the Democrats since 1978 in the Missouri House of Representatives. But the governor didn't get the message. He continues to take this state on what I believe is a wayward path, a path that shows a lack of vision for Missourians. And I'll demonstrate that by talking about some of the really bad bills that we had to deal with this year. One of them being the MOHELA, the Missouri Higher Education or College Loan Authority. That institution is a standalone institution in the state that has funded college loans for students, particularly at the UMSL campus is the biggest user of MOHELA loans. UMSL, where I got my master's degree, junior colleges are very big users of MOHELA loans. And what they've done by having this private loan authority granting loans is they've kept interest rates lower and tuition costs about 1.5% lower than states that don't have a college loan authority. Now, our governor, instead of seeing this as a benefit for college students in our state, saw it as a cash cow and decided he was going to sell off the entire loan authority. Did it without going to the legislature, did it without holding open meetings of MOHELA, tried to do it behind the backs of Missourians. He was caught with his hand in the cookie jar, and we forced him to bring this issue to the legislature, and we scaled back the sale of the loan authority. He wanted to sell off the entire loan authority. What we ended up with was a sale of about $350 million in assets. Still very harmful to college students. We're going to use that money for capital improvements that will help build buildings on campuses like Jefferson College, but they're only getting $1.2 million, is my recollection. Is that right, Ron? Yeah, that's right. $1.2 million. Other places are really getting shortchanged. So there's not an even distribution of the money, and it's certainly not a distribution that's driven by the contribution that those campuses make. And the worst part about it is we're building those buildings on the backs of Missouri's poorest college students, kids that are only able to attend college because there is help from college loan authorities and grants and other things that the state is doing and ought to continue to do. So again, this just shows an utter lack of vision, I think, for Missouri's college students. Education, of course, is the ultimate equalizer. It is a way that kids in Missouri and kids in the United States all get an equal chance at the American dream. And that dream's being placed further out of reach by greedy political stunts like the sale of MOHELA. And while I'm speaking about education in Missouri, I'll say that we continue to be in court the state of Missouri with half the school districts in the state that have objected to the fact that we're not fully funding public education, K through 12 education. There's a foundation formula that's used to determine how much money we are supposed to send to schools, and we're not meeting our constitutional requirement on that. We're short about 15%. These school districts are going to win this suit, and now we're going to have the courts intervening in how we fund education, and that's an abdication of our responsibility. The legislature and the governor ought to stand up together and say we're going to fully fund education, we're going to make some hard choices, and we're going to do what we ought to be doing for kids in the state. So I'm seeing the red flag here, so I'm going to cut my remarks short because I could talk for a long time. But Ron Casey will use the rest of my time, I have no doubt. But let me just say what a pleasure it is to serve the people of Jefferson County, to work with business leaders like the members of the Jefferson County Growth and Development Association, and to work together with such a great delegation of state representatives that work tirelessly. I mean, it is just remarkable to leave that building at night and walk through the parking garage and say, there's Ron, I'm leaving at midnight. Ron Casey's car is still in the parking lot. Sam Como's car is still in the parking lot. Joe Fowler's car is still in the parking lot. And those are the only cars in the parking lot. You've got the hardest working delegation of state reps in the state of Missouri. And if you don't believe me, come driving through the parking lot about 1 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock at night, some night, and you'll see that there's not a lot of cars there, but you recognize the ones that are. So thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure to join my friends, and we appreciate you taking the time to listen. Thanks.
All right, next up is Mr. Ron Casey, somebody I believe just about everybody knows, from the 103rd District. And Mr. Banks, how much time does Ron have?
As much time as he.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Chris. Let me say what a pleasure it is to be here this morning. I recognize in the audience Mr. Sam Rawls, who I served with on the county commission, in his new job in economic growth, and he's the right man for the job, and he's going to do a wonderful job, and it's certainly good to see you, and it's a pleasure working with him on the county commission. In my early days of public speaking, I would always, before I got up, wonder what I had on my tie or on my coat, and now I've gotten older in this business. I always go frantically searching for my glasses to try to make sure I've got them, because without it, I'm dead in the water. But it certainly is great to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve with the people that we get to serve with, and to each of the representatives and to the senators. Even though we don't agree on every subject, I never question their heart. And that means a lot to me, because if an issue is such that it's divisive, and oftentimes issues that we deal with are divisive, I just want to know where their heart is. And even though I may not agree with what their position is, I just enjoy the fact that they're good people, and they look after each one of you. And this last week, the delegation had the blessed opportunity of presenting Miss Robin Wallace and her family resolution, and also a flag that had flown over the state capitol. And she came on last Wednesday to be with us, with her family and her father. And before we made the presentation, we went into the Thomas Hart Benton painting mural in the old house lounge, and there were school children in there, and the teacher said that they were just waiting 20 minutes to get on the next tour. And Miss Robin Wallace got up there and spoke to those children about how grateful she was to have had a son that was able to fight for the countries and the values and the freedoms that we enjoy. And it was one of those experiences that it just made chills go up my spine, because a young lady that had every reason to be bitter was giving praises to God. And I just share that with you because it meant a whole lot to me. And to get to hear her speak. And I think that this session of the General Assembly, as Representative Rorta said, was one of missed opportunity, where that on the floor of the House we were hearing bills about three-toed turtles, and I voted against it, and I'm not against the turtle. I had many of them in Festus growing up. But I thought, isn't there something better that we could be doing than this, honest to goodness? And it concerns me because the window of opportunity for the legislature is only 8 years. And Representative Como and Representative Fowler being new, there is so much to learn. And I guess my editorial comment would be, we've got to Missouri somewhere, and if we don't do it today or tomorrow, we need to do it down the road, is to address term limits. Because I'm telling you, 8 years is not the right thing to do. And people are going to say, well, can't you steal all you're going to steal in 8 years? Well, I guess not. I just guess not. And I bring it up because I always take the proactive stance in it. But let me just show you, and I brought with me, and Representative Harris the other day, and her car's on the parking lot late too, by the way. And this is Senate Bill 164. This is 825 pages.
We get paid by the word.
We get paid by the word. I make, do what?
And they dropped it the last day.
Yeah, and honest to goodness, this was dropped on us right at the last minute with like 10 minutes to review it, and Representative Harris made mention of it on the House floor. Let me just say this to you. There's no way, and I went to Festus and I wasn't in the smartest class, the smartest room, but I'm just telling you, there's no way that I can ever absorb that. And you hear the negative advertising on politicians, and we all get painted with the same broad brush about what you voted for, well, I'm just promising you, I did not read all that bill before we voted on it. I'm just telling you. You listen to the speeches, you try to absorb. There's about 2,000 bills, about 1,300 in the House of Representatives, and about 700 in the Senate. Term limits, there is so much to know and so much to learn, so much to absorb, and you're sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to vote on this. And the negative advertising about us, there's good things in here.
Keep talking.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even get to near what I wanted to say. This was what I wanted to say, and I wanted to read this to you. And if y'all could come over to the house, it is a pleasure to be here and to work with the representatives and senators that we have in Jefferson County. And God bless you for your service and for being here this morning. And I think they're going to pull the rope on me. Yeah, the hook here. Thank you very much.
We've got Mr. Joe Fowler from the 104th District. Joe?
First, I'd like to thank, First, I'd like to thank the host and the sponsors for doing this. It gives us an opportunity to meet with you and get our face and voice out there, and that's important to me. Also, working with the Jeff County group, I know we've all mentioned that. For me, being from the only one, I guess, that's not from Jefferson County, I'm from St. Genevieve. I really enjoy working with all the folks up here, and as was mentioned, we do get together if there's an issue, and it gives me a lot of support. Otherwise, if I had my old district that I ran for 10 years ago, I would be very isolated between the other party. Not that there's anything wrong with them, they're good guys, but at least the ones from our area. And I enjoy working with them also. But it's really very supportive for me to have that kind of companionship that I get with the other 6 reps from Jefferson County. There were quite a list of things. I know Ron mentioned the large bills. That was something I had mentioned in another survey. I knew there was always these large omnibus bills out there. I think that's something that we need to look at in the future. I think almost everything that got passed this year that amounted to anything was an omnibus bill. And I know Jeff and myself and the other reps, we all had language in them bills. Well, in the crime bill, when it went to the conference committee, it was so large, they just stripped out all the Democratic proposals because the chairman of the Senate committee didn't like them. And one of those was one that I know Jeff had about 5 or 6 in there. He saved a couple. I had one that just closed a loophole my prosecutor warrant told me about that said, you know, you're not allowed to live within 1,000 feet of a school if you're a sexual offender. Well, he had a case that brought to light that only applied to people that were convicted in Missouri. So he had a sexual offender he couldn't do anything about. We tried to change that. Something as small as that we got back in, Jeff and rep from St. Louis got back in conference, but the bill ended up dying because it was so large and it never came back up. So we had all these omnibus bills, and I think that's an issue that needs to be looked at. We should be looking at the merits of these bills more on a single basis issue or 2 or 3 items that are very comparable. It's really sad we didn't get any significant transportation bills this year, which, you know, it would be significant for Jefferson County also. The budget on transportation is down about $400 million this year. Having served on the Transportation Committee, that funding basically is drying up by 2010, and all we're going to have is what they claim is barely enough to do maintenance. So that's an issue that's going to be out there next year and the next year after that, for sure. The chairman of both the transportation committees in the House and Senate have some big, bold plans for funding. It's odd that it's coming from the other side of the aisle, but they're tax increases, and it's something that's going to have to be looked at. This year, I think we gave away, and I'm sure they shaved it back in the conference committees, but we were up to, at one point, between the Social Security tax bill that grew into a huge Christmas tree, and the other tax incentive bills and tax credit bills grew to such a large amount that we was almost up to $1 billion, $800 million to $1 billion in tax credits and tax breaks. I'm sorry, but we can't fund our schools and fund our highways. At some point, we got to stop, and somebody's got to take hold, whether it's the individual citizens, the corporations, or whoever. We got to pay for what we want. If we want good roads and good schools, we're going to have to pay for it. And that was the other issue that I thought was a disappointment this year. We did nothing major in the field of education, and I think we need to quit piecemealing tuition tax credits and whatever the other issues were that they had talked about. We have unaccredited schools. While I think we have great schools locally in our district, we're very fortunate, but this is a very contagious problem if not contained within the districts that are unaccredited with some of the ideas that are out there, because shifting the problem and letting students transfer out of the unaccredited districts or failing districts is not going to help the good districts, and it's not going to help their districts, because they're just going to be stuck with whatever problems were left there. So with that, and on the, well, there was one other issue, you know, Mo Health Net Medicaid change was very disappointing. There were some great ideas in it, but most of them, as we tried to explain on the floor, I know Belinda talked about it a lot, it was all subject to appropriations. We can put all the good ideas we want into a 180-page bill, but if nobody's going to pay for them either, it's not helping anybody. So that was a very disappointing thing, and I don't want to be a pessimist either, but there were a lot of good small things in there, and I won't go into any of them, but they're all hid in these big, huge bills. So with that, I appreciate you having us today, and I appreciate working with the group here in Jefferson County.
So with that, we have our last speaker, and then we're going to open it up to questions. So be thinking about your questions as Belinda comes up here. Belinda Harris from the 110th District.
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm State Representative Belinda Harris, and my district takes in parts of 3 counties, Jefferson County, Franklin County, and Washington County. I basically go from Hillsborough to Potosi. I've been added a new committee this year. I'm on the full budget, so I get to hear the finances of a little bit of everything of all the different state departments. And for my first time to be on the full budget, it was a massive job. But I got party to some things that I never really heard, some of these fine details of the budget. I saved all my books because I thought it was just so amazing to see where all this money goes to in the great details that you don't normally see on the House floor. Some of the other committees that I'm on the appropriations for our Department of Natural Resources and Agriculture, and that fits well with my agricultural background. I'm on the Parks and Waterways Committee, Joint Committee on Corrections. I have a special group that we inspect the prisons in the state of Missouri. There's 22 of them. Also on the Joint Committee for Wetlands. So those are my committees that I've been serving for this year, and it will be also next year. I'm in my 5th year as a state legislator, so I've have a little bit more background, and I felt it was great to work with the Jefferson County group, and I think we all do work together, so I think that's a great asset for Jefferson County. I'm going to go over some of the bills that have passed. You don't hear some of these. They aren't as high profile, but I think they're interesting to know that some of the things that did pass this year. One was the Missouri Blasting Safety Act, and it's to regulate various blasting and excavation activities. There's been problems with new developments and the shaking of the ground and how some of the stability of the buildings around where blasting occurs. Another big bill was the it was considered Quality Jobs Act. There were large tax credits for corporations, tax credits for domestic violence shelters, distressed areas, film production, beef, qualified beef, maternity homes, alternative fuels. I mean, there was a lot of different tax credits. This was one of the heavy bills that had a lot of high cost to it, and the governor has some concern about whether he's going to sign that bill. So it passed, but just because bills pass don't mean they become law. They can be vetoed by the governor. Another bill was increasing points for sheltered workshops so that they become more competitive in the market of selling their goods, that the ones that are disabled. The big bill was, it was House Bill 444. It eliminated state taxes on Social Security benefits. They did put a cap on it. It was a heavy bill that had cost the state a lot of money. They did kind of put a cap that would make it not so expensive, but yet it is another thing that will be taking money every year out of the state budget, giving legislators less money to work with. There was the income tax credits for donations for food pantries. Another one was it had to do with veteran service programs. They kind of added a little bit more, allowed them to use a different fund for helping for transportation for veterans to go to doctor's appointments. Another law, and this one was kind of interesting, it was a health insurance care package. It had all kinds of small employer health insurance, prescription drug coverage. It even had a kind of a unique health care that dealt with faith-based members. It had stuff on Down syndrome, but inside that one was stuck to legalize midwives, and that was the one that the governor might not sign that one, although they're kind of reviewing what effect that would be. There was something that had to do with long-term care facilities to require fire alarms and sprinkler systems. There was some compromises with that. One was alternatives to abortion, where it gives ladies that are in a crisis pregnancy support and counseling if they decide to carry their baby to term. Then it also had some standards for the abortion clinics that they have to live up to the surgical center standards. Another one that was out in the press a lot, having the English language be official proceedings. You know, the English language is all our official proceedings, but many people are feeling threatened that the English language might not be the #1 spoken language in this, not just Missouri, but in the United States. Oh, 5 minutes are already up, and I haven't even touched on it. But there were so many other bills that we did address and pass, and then there were ones that we didn't, and they failed. The primary seatbelt law failed. The corporate farm bill law failed. The dam reservoir safety bill failed. And unfortunately, the one with the minimum wage that affected the firefighters in the police department did not pass. So I would be glad to talk with different ones of what bills passed and what bills failed. I've got kind of the list with me. So thank you so much.
One of my first questions, before we get to some other people's questions, is whenever you guys are talking, does environmental issues ever come up? Not necessarily just about pollution, but other things to save energy and recycle? Whoever?
I'll start, and then I'm sure Belinda will have something to say. Well, here's the two issues that come to mind that the state's dealt with on environment are trying to support Missouri's entrance into the biodiesel and ethanol markets, and trying to provide some incentives for our farmers to produce those sorts of fuels, which are much cleaner burning, put money in the pockets of Midwestern farmers instead of Middle Eastern terrorists, and burn much cleaner, much better for the environment. So, you know, that's a multi-pronged issue that affects agriculture and the environment and our local economy. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. We also have year after year tried to pass legislation that would provide a tax credit for, Belinda will correct me if I'm wrong, tax credit for hybrid vehicles that are purchased in Missouri that are manufactured in Missouri. We have a plant up around north of Kansas City, I guess, that produces hybrid vehicles, and that, again, touches on both our local economy and in protecting our environment. So those are a couple of issues, particularly with, you know, hydrocarbon emissions that come to mind, and I'll acquiesce to my other colleagues to talk about some other issues.
I just want to say real quick, one of the issues that I brought up was I brought an issue to the Economic Development Committee on flex fuel manufacturing. I wanted to try to get a study done, but it's kind of late in the season when I brought it to them, with the idea of flex fuel manufacturing, not just the production of you know, biodiesel and ethanol, but also the consumption of it, of like, you know, can we use it for energy, not just for cars, but what other things can we use it with? And I think that's important to find out. Now that we're starting to get some of these facilities online, how do we continue to use that to expand on it and to continue to make it? So he was kind of late in the season. He said to bring it back next year, maybe we can look at that to see what we can do with that. So this is something I was working on.
Hi, I'm Belinda, and there was a bill that did pass this year, and it's Senate Bill 54, and it'd be good for anybody that's really interested in the environment to go through that. It's got many different things in it. One of it is called net metering. If you do produce electricity, that gives you the right to get credit for the electricity that you generate. So it can be going back through the lines and you get credit through it. And so it also has areas in there that's talking about the wind and the hydrogen and the solar, and biomass is another new one that they've kind of thrown in there. Also in that same bill, they have alternatives to landfilling, and this was kind of an area that I'd been working in before, plasma technology, to use that to handle landfill your hazardous waste and your solid waste and use the hydrogen gas that comes off of that to produce electricity. Also, bioreactor landfills were part of that package, and in that is the methane gas, capturing that and using that as a source of energy. It had many different things in that bill besides those items, but it was kind of our little environmental package bill that did pass this year.
That's one issue as a freshman, since you brought it up, and I know Belinda had that bill there, and what Jeff said, and Sam, but also even in transportation, that was something that was interesting to me, was that almost every subject that we come up now, the environmental issues are part of it. Even on transportation, there was some legislation in, I'm not sure if it made it through the omnibus bills, but that Representative Meadows, I think he was involved in that, or at least knew about it, and that was the idler reduction on trucks to cut down on the diesel, on the output on those, which has been important. I work in a mining operation, and we're always studying that diesel particulate underground. So this idler reduction thing, one, saved fuel, and it cut down on pollution. So I don't think there's any subject matter out there hardly anymore that the environmental issues don't come up at some point. So I just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Two questions. The second question was the illegal immigration, and in our area, we do see more and more of, or we hear more and more of that going on. So what is the legislator doing about that? And of course, the big question is just the continuation of good manufacturing jobs that appear to be lost not only in our county, but as well as the state. Did I paraphrase that pretty good? All right.
I'll start with the immigration issue. The immigration issue is a big issue. I think you kind of nailed it on the head. I mean, people, it's just like anything else, drug trade, whatever, illegal drug trade. As long as there's a demand, I guess, for low-wage workers, they're going to continue to come. The key is, I think, with that is you got to somehow fix that problem. And how to fix it, I don't know. I mean, we have not addressed it in Missouri. The way of addressing immigration in Missouri is, like was said earlier, let's make English as a primary language. Let's put it on the ballot, make everybody feel that we're actually addressing the issue, and we go walk away from it and everybody's happy. That's not going to address the issue, but it makes everybody feel good. On manufacturing, of course, that's a dear issue to me because myself, I work at the Chrysler plant, which everybody knows was sold off to a new company once more. And that's one of the questions I asked right from the beginning is what are we doing to not just my industry, but what are we doing for all the industries in Missouri, because we have to retain those jobs. Those are good jobs. I know everything we hear is we're getting, like Ford shut down. We lost guys that was making, $60,000 a year jobs. And all I keep on hearing is, oh, but we're getting so many more jobs. But the jobs we're getting in are $10 an hour jobs. We're not getting the quality jobs that we had. We're losing those and gaining smaller jobs. Rolla just lost Bridge and Stratton. They moved right down the road for incentives and stuff like that. So it's kind of crazy. We're playing this tax incentive issues and trying to do this for this manufacturer. Somehow we need to do a study that sits down, looks at the big picture, and figure out how these incentives should work. Because now we're competing against other states. And they literally have people out there, like brokers, selling their state and saying, if you come to our state, here's your incentives, here's your package. Missouri, we have that a little bit, but we don't have it on the scales that they do. They have incentives, they have all this stuff in place. And I think that's something we need to do in Jefferson County too. On a smaller version of what the states do, we need to attract same businesses here. Chrysler just put in a bunch of smaller plants that are going to Pacific, Franklin County. I know I talked to Chuck Banks about this. If we had MM and W connected with 55 and 44, there's no reason why we couldn't have brought some of those manufacturing jobs here. So it's an ongoing issue. I don't want to talk it to death because I know these other guys have issues with it too. So thanks.
Well, the approach has been to incentivize new job growth by sort of chasing our tail and running over here and giving this major manufacturer this big tax incentive package, this major manufacturer this big tax incentive package. And as we give one guy something, the other guy wants it, or he moves, and it's been a failed strategy, and it completely overlooks the essential problem that we have in attracting manufacturing jobs in this state and this country. And that is that we have to have a robust infrastructure that provides good highways, a well-trained workforce that has a quality public education, a quality higher education. We have to have a healthcare plan where we can compete with foreign nations. Now, how do we compete with Japan and China and India and other big manufacturers when their health care is being subsidized by their government, and we have no health care in this country for about 15% of our citizens? That's where we can't compete. When Chrysler and General Motors and Ford and their domestic operations are spending more money on health care than they are on steel, then there's something wrong with that equation, and we can't hope to compete with foreign nations. And we're not helping ourselves by running around and throwing big chunks of money. And I know that's the conventional wisdom is throw this tax incentive over there and this tax incentive over. We ought to be using that money to build new highways. We're a transportation hub in this state, and that's what attracts businesses here, and expanding that and improving a system that we have now that's failing. 70 is literally crumbling from one end of the state to the other. That's what we ought to be investing in, not throwing a bone to this guy or that guy because they got the best lobbyist or the shiniest new building. That's where we're going wrong. And having a well-trained workforce, my God, that's what keeps companies doing business in the United States instead of going abroad and employing a workforce that's not well-trained. And that's why we have to invest in what we have to offer, what we have to offer over other states and other nations. You look around at states like Michigan and California, Wisconsin, that invest heavily in their higher education system and have a higher education system that's the envy of the rest of the country. Those are the states where manufacturing growth and job growth is enviable, and it's not enviable here. We're in the bottom 12% in the country in new job production here in the state. The governor calls, because we have created new jobs, even though we're in the bottom 12%, the governor calls that an economic success, an economic juggernaut. He should be ashamed of his record on the economy. He shouldn't be bragging about being in the basement on job production, and the reason we're in the basement is because of this failed strategy with tax incentives and not building up a robust economy. So I get excited when I talk about that subject, but that's the answer as far as I'm concerned.
You've made an excellent point, Pastor. It is crazy to have a 5-month session, and then after that 5-month session, you go back to ground zero and then start all over again the next year, and then go back and start all over again the next year, instead of it being a continuous or more of a connected procedure. Everything you said, I agree with. I agree with it. It is broken, and I think that the voters know it's broken, and what are we going to do to fix it? When you get a bill like what I showed you, 825 pages laid on your desk, and 10 minutes later, am I exaggerating? No. I mean, and here you've got to decipher that and vote yes or no. Something is wrong with that. You listen to the speeches, you listen to the debate, and you think, man, oh man, there's good things in it, there's bad things in it. I would so much like to see it change, and I don't know exactly where to ever start to change it, because in county government, you somewhat can get your arm around the tree and understand the issues, where on the state level, I'm not there yet. And Representative Harris certainly has the seniority on the Jefferson County delegation, but it is just so massive of what you deal with every day. I just feel swamped by it. I mean, you go into work, and you leave work, by the way, after having been there from can to can't, and you think, man, I need to be reading this, I need to be reading this, I need to be, but yet in a day, or just within minutes, as someone mentioned, one of the delegation mentioned, it'll be stripped out of the bill. Everything that you've been working on is stripped out in a conference committee between the House and the Senate, and it is just gone. And you're thinking, well, why did I do all that work? Why did I stay up? I think that we have to connect with the people that we serve, and I don't know how well we connect with them. I'm just telling you my own personal opinion, because I so much want to do a good job, but it's so big. When the knowledge of the House and the Senate is in the lobbyists and in the legislative aides, something is wrong with that picture. I'm just telling you, because you don't have the database to rely on unless you're going to trust them. And certainly they're honorable people, and if they ever are not honorable, then they pretty much paint themselves into a corner and are no longer useful. But I don't know if it's 12 years, but things are stalled that we don't even get to vote on because of you're going to think that I'm complaining, and I'm not. There's 71 Democrats and 92 Republicans. I went to a gentleman, and I'll leave him nameless, but has been there, and works for the state. And I said, I'm having trouble because once I think I understand it, it changes on a dime. And he said, Ron, you'll never read it in a book. He said, but it's known as the Rule of 82. Well, we have a House rules book. It's green, and if you want one, they're available. But it gives the rule of the House, and you think, well, I'm going to read that thing. You know, I really want to know my job. I really want to. And you read it. If you've got 82 votes, you've got the majority vote out of the 163-member House, so you get what you want. And so what's in that little green book means nothing, because they're going to do what they want to do. I can't tell you the level of frustration that I feel whenever they do that, because you just sit there and kind of, if I can tell you how I feel, you kind of like do a slow burn. And you think, well, why don't they follow the rules? Well, the rule is the Rule of 82. I think there's like 145 rules in that little, 119 rules in that little green book that you're welcome to have a copy of, but memorize it, know it word for word, know the page, know the section, know everything. And the Rule of 82 is going to change. You guys watch it on the House, and they don't go by the rules. And I don't want to sound like I'm frustrated over it, but it's sure to get your goat. And I've had a guy that's had a heart attack. You try not to let it, really bite at you. But I'm just telling you, I think the people know that it's broken. And preacher, everything you said is exactly right. A watched pot never boils over. People do what you inspect, not what you expect. I question who's watching the pot, and I wonder who's doing the inspection. For good government, because we do things in the House, and we're not in majority. We're on the minority side, and so we're not in the driver's seat. We're in the trunk. Do you ever feel that way?
Tied up in the trunk.
Tied up in the trunk.
Duct tape over our mouth.
Yeah, duct tape over our mouth, because they have what they call previous question. A previous question shuts off all debate. Well, I mean, Belinda is an excellent speaker, and she knows that, and the whole delegation are excellent speakers. I've never considered myself a great public speaker, but you listen to all the debate, and you think, well, I need to learn about this bill. There were 68, thank you. There were 68 PQs, previous questions, to stop debate in the House, to where I couldn't even hear what the majority party said or what the minority party said. They just stop it. I mean, bam. Well, I always vote against previous questions because I think there ought to be more debate. And you sit there so frustrated, you think, well, if I sit here any longer, I'm going to go nuts. And so you get up and go get iced tea or a soda and then come back and have them PQ you again. I don't want to sound like I'm frustrated, but preacher, you hit the nail on the head, and thank you for your comments.
A brief explanation. when Missourians in record numbers passed a minimum wage law that established that we're a state that has compassion for our lowest wage earners, and we want them to earn a decent living as they work in some of the hardest jobs in our state. Missourians showed compassion, and some of our state representatives showed a complete lack of compassion for our public safety workers. There was a small provision, a federal exemption to the overtime law that was left out of the language that was placed before the ballot. They put 213 USC in the ballot language, which is one of the exceptions. They did not put 207 USC in. So just a sheer oversight, but has really rained havoc on our public safety workers, firefighters and cops who under federal law, but now not under state law, were allowed to work 44 hours a week, and that their hours could be averaged over a 28-day period. Now are in the real sticky situation for both rank and file members of police and fire departments and their administrations, and they've all joined together to try to do something about this, that they no longer have that special exemption, that they're under the same 40-hour work week, 8-hour day that the rest of us are, and it just doesn't work, you know, as a guy who's worked both in law enforcement and been on the board of directors of a fire district and ambulance district. Those schedules just don't work for an outfit that has to stay open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and have a very highly specially trained workforce. So the Senate did the right thing. They passed a nice, clean bill that narrowly addressed and remedied that omission in the ballot language so that firefighters and police could go back to the exemption that they lived under for so long. When that bill got over the House, a small group of extremists is what I've repeatedly called them, because that's what they are. They're extremists who do not support working families in Missouri. They wanted to thumb their nose at what 70% of Missourians said, that we ought to have a minimum wage law and that there ought to be a cost of living increase, and that we ought to in a very fair way compute how tip wages are calculated so that our waiters and waitresses aren't shortchanged. They wanted to take, because of special interest group lobbying, they wanted to take out that cost of living increase and that language on tip wages. So that's what they did. They put some very bad language in committee, and when that bill got to the floor, again, a very bipartisan effort, Democrats talking to Republicans, a pro-labor Republican offers an amendment on the floor that says, let's go back to this very narrow fix for cops and firefighters, and let's take out this nonsense about tips and cost of living increase, which they try to do away with completely, cost of living increase on minimum wage. With that, as soon as that amendment was offered, the sponsor of the bill withdrew the bill, and the entire issue is dead. So now our firefighters and cops, our police agencies, and our fire departments are scrambling, because they had faith in the legislature that we were going to do the right thing. Now they're scrambling to try to figure out what they've got to do next. Do they have to not buy the next fire truck? Do they have to cut their labor force? Because now they got to work a 40-hour work week or pay an exorbitant amount of overtime. And what the solution that a lot of them come up with is to scale back their salaries so that at the end of the year, if you look at how many hours a person's scheduled for and how many hours they work, that regular overtime, scheduled overtime, that they'll still get the same salary at the end of the year. But for our firefighters and cops, that shortchanges them on unscheduled overtime when they got to stay over for that big fire or that big arrest, and it shortchanges them for their pension, because pensions are generally figured on your 40-hour work week wage. So it's a solution that is desperately needed. We're all going to suffer from less public safety services if we don't fix this right away. The governor has a clear mandate that he should call us back in a special session to address this situation. I've been speaking with the firefighters union and the Fraternal Order of Police all week this week. I've made a commitment to them that if the governor doesn't call us back in a special session, I'm going to circulate a petition within the legislature. We can call ourselves back into special session with 2/3 signatures from both sides of the building, and that's what I'm going to push for if the governor doesn't do the right thing. So that's about as brief an explanation as I can offer on such a complex issue. So.
Thanks, Ron.
Well, and you're right, there was the review, and Public Service Commission does review the different utilities, and they have a formula that they go by to see where the costs are and what the rate should be for the customers. And their own analysis was that there were over-earnings. Instead of needing a rate increase, they were charging too much. So at one time, the recommendation was that they needed to decrease their rates. Ameren UE was very strong that they needed this, the storms, everything that they listed. Public Service Commission made a decision, and I feel that there has been great concern that their decision was not in the best interest of the public and the consumer, because they are allowing them to have a rate increase. They have stated that it's not as large as what Ameren was wanting, but yet it is an increase. And I guess they consider that a compromise, I don't know, but sometimes a compromise would be maybe not having an increase at all, less not doing the decrease. But it was this morning, the governor has made a statement that he does not agree with Public Service Commission. And I have gone to a lot of the meetings that the Public Service Commission has had, and I voiced that when you have come up with your own study and decided that there was an over-earnings, that's the position that you should at least stand on. And we have talked to one of the commissioners, Steve Gaw, and he was in agreement that they should not have had this increase, but he is just one person. And I think there were two that voted against this increase for Ameren UE. I think if the public speaks out more, there might be a little bit, maybe change of heart, but right now, that's the direction that Public Service Commission has gone to.
That's great the governor doesn't agree with that, but isn't his brother a lobbyist for Ameren?
And yes, it's almost like, within the family there. Yes.
Yeah, and let me just say that the good news is, as Belinda said, they were asking for $326 million increase, and they only got a $42 million. So they got about 15% of what they're asking for, and it's about $2.20 on the average user's electric bill. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't mind paying an extra $2.20 if Ameren does a better job of maintaining their lines, so we don't have another catastrophe like we did in the July and November storms. So I know it's very frustrating to pay more on utility bills when we got what a lot of people characterize as terrible service. But if someone holds their feet to the fire and they do a better job with the lines, then I don't mind paying an extra $2.20. But as somebody just pointed out, what do you expect when the governor's brother is a lobbyist for Ameren UE and they're number one lobbyist? So I say that this is an issue of ethics reform and lobbyist reform more than it is an issue of the Public Service Commission or of utility costs in general. So.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Well, I want to say a special thanks to the two people that are on my committee for the Legislative Forum, Mark Mertens and Chuck Banks. They're the guys that did all the hard work. Thank you. Again, special thanks to Eagle Bank, Jefferson Memorial Hospital, Jefferson College, Sheet Metal Contractors, and the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union 562. Thank you very much. And, of course, special thanks to Sam Como, Jeff Warda, Ron Casey, Joe Fallert, and Belinda Harris for being here. We look forward to having you back again. Thanks again to KJFF and JCTV. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
You may not know their names, but the students who are helped through a Jefferson College Foundation scholarship carry thanks in their hearts. It's for the kindness that our contributors have shown. Make a difference in their tomorrows.
Education, the great equalizer. It doesn't just mean you get more knowledge, it means you improve your quality of life.
Give to the Jefferson College Foundation today.